Hello and welcome to the Trainer Wise Daily Show. On today's episode, we're discussing all those television workouts that are super intense, super serious, supposed to get you super ripped.
It allows us to focus more on the newer clients or the people that need more help rather than the guy like, listen, you banged out the push-up for 6 weeks. I know you're good. Let me help out your teammate.
Hey, this is a call out to all strength coaches and trainers out there. If you would like to share your views on a given topic, just go to trainerwise.com. Fill out the contact form. Tell us the topic that's of interest to you, and we'll get you on as soon as possible. We're filling up shows at the moment, currently taking guest speakers. So please do take the time now to contact us there, and we'll get you on. Our guest today to break them down, discuss the goods and the bad of these routines is Rich Mejias from New Jersey. Rich, welcome.
Well, thank you very much.
All right, super cool. Thanks for coming on, Rich. We were trying to get you on one of these episodes. We were able to nail you for this one. I wanted to hear your thoughts on the term that I think when I talked to Dr. Paul Juris, he had a very interesting point on it. But P90X specifically, let's just start there. They talk about the notion of muscle confusion, and they show their graphs and the confusing misunderstanding of the muscle to be able to know how to do the exercise movement. What's your take on the notion of muscle confusion?
To tell you the truth, I personally use it in my training with my athletes, but I think just like any other topic, I think sometimes people run with it and run with it too far.
Yeah.
The whole thing with, P90X or any of the other things is what they're trying to do with the muscle confusion is not get you bored with your workout. But the problem is they're never mastering any type of exercise. By doing something once a week or once every 2 weeks or whatever it is, you really don't get to understand the principle of the exercise or the details that go into it. So, at Leverage Training Center where I train all my athletes, what we do is we do muscle confusion, but we do it in spans of like 4 to 8 weeks, depending on what season the athlete is in. This way, the athlete can not only get to know the exercise, but also understand that there are progressions to the exercise and also regressions depending on where the athlete is.
Right. So when people talk about, you could put a lot of terms on it, but aren't they in essence talking about periodization? When you're talking about muscle confusion, you're talking about don't let the body adapt. And if I heard you right, you were saying that if you change the stimulus too fast, then your body never gets to really solve the movement in all its nuance and be able to make it, real precise. But I think that when you throw a new word on it, I think it's Beachbody, creates these routines.
Right.
People are like, oh, wow, I've never heard of that. Where you and I are just like, yeah, it's called periodizing your program.
Right, we've been doing that for years.
So yeah, everybody does it, which I think is interesting. It's just they'll put a word on it, and then, it's kind of like tone. We had this conversation in another episode where a woman will come and they say, I just want to tone up. I don't want to get big. And you're like, well, tone. We're talking about, your brain's ability to innervate that muscle and, modulate the amount of tone in the muscle. No, they're talking about looking pretty, right? They're talking about
that's all they care about is their bathing suit or their jeans.
That's it, man. So it's funny, those terms they use. I just wanted to break that down a little bit. Let's talk about the intensity of those programs. Pretty gnarly. I mean, I know some people will come to me and say, Daniel, I did the yoga routine and I almost barfed. And I was like, the yoga routine? They're like, yeah, I almost barfed. And it was just like, wow, it must be pretty intense. I mean, hence the name. I know they have lesser versions. They have P90 something else and other lesser intense versions of that very well-known one. But what would you say the average person is like? If you had, I always say, if you had somebody in your family who was interested in something like this, what would be their take? Would you say, like, if they say, hey, Rich, you think I should do the P90X? And it's your sister-in-law, and she's 42 years old, and she hasn't worked out, but she walks, a couple miles a week. What would be your advice to her if she was interested in getting involved in one of these programs?
I think you kind of said it. I think there's a progression to everything that each client does, and each client is at a different point. My family in particular, if somebody asked me, my first question is I would first start an assessment process with them.
Right.
Talk about any previous injuries. What's their exercise? Are they on any type of medication that we need to know about?
Right.
From that information, you could tell. I mean, some of the workouts, insanity. Listen, if you haven't worked out in 2 years and you're 40 pounds overweight and you get tired chasing your kid in the backyard, is that the DVD you really want to pick up? I don't care if it's the best thing in the world. Does that sound like, step one, insanity? So I think every client is different. You look at like Weekend Warriors. That may be something that steers into somebody like that, somebody that's been working out. But again, the problem that I have with these videos, I think they're great. I think they get everybody up and moving, but there is no progression. There is no level one, or if there is a level one, they aren't being publicized. Everybody's going right into, the crazy 60 minutes, you're hanging out your window, puking, and then coming out, pumping your fists like, you achieve something. When in actuality, they're not conquering the movement. They're just moving just to move. And, depending on, what problems that they have or what injuries, they may be causing more problems for themselves in the future. So it is a great thing that is getting people, out of their couch, off their remote control and moving. But still, there are some downfalls to it because they're not being watched over in the proper manner.
Gotcha. So, like, I don't know if you've ever run any kind of like boot camps or intense, intense group classes or anything like that. Yeah. But if you have, or if you've seen somebody run them, what do you think is the proper approach to that? I mean, it's always going to be tough to manage multiple levels of people, multiple injuries at the same time. I mean, is it better because you're there and they have somebody to turn to if their push-ups, are really poor, and you say, hey, you know what, you need to shorten your range of motion, or you need to go to this different version? Is it because they have somebody on hand in a class to show them how to do it? Is that the big risk in being at home by yourself doing a DVD where the instructor may say, hey, if you're not able to do this, you got to do that? And if they don't know that they're not doing exercise A well, and they should be, reverting to the exercise B, then they're not going to change, and they're going to keep doing it, and like you said, maybe injure themselves. Do you guys run an intense program at your center at all?
Yeah, we do a women's boot camp in the morning. Where we train, it's mostly athletes, and even in our athletes are all group sessions. Right. So we max out at 6, and it's me and my partner, so we'll have 12 in the facility at one time. Obviously, with the 12, we're going to get different levels of fitness. In the women's boot camps, we're going to get different levels of fitness. By establishing a system that the athletes can understand and allowing what we talked about the muscle confusion and the 4 to 8 weeks, and athletes learning it, it allows us to focus more on the newer clients or the people that need more help rather than the guy like, listen, you've banged out the push-up for 6 weeks. I know you're good. Let me help out your teammate that's been struggling the last couple of weeks with it. But the problem is, like you said, on the video, I assess clients and I'll do an overhead squat assessment. And I'll say, keep your hands over your head. And the minute they squat, their hands come forward. And I'll say, keep your hands over your head. And we'll do this for like 5-10 minutes. And they don't understand what they're doing. So, for a beginner or a newcomer to fitness, what I would probably suggest is finding like a medium. Maybe finding like a small group X. Small group X, starts at like 3 to 4, maybe goes to 6. It's a cheaper price point, but gives you the instruction that you would need. And then maybe do an Insanity or a P90X if that's the route that you want to do once or twice a week. And kind of, figure out the movement before you start jumping into the madness.
I hear what you're saying. So let me ask you, why do you think, I mean, obviously, if you have a good marketing plan, you have good commercials, you have Mr. Horton on there, looking like he hasn't eaten one carbohydrate in about 4 years, people are going to be motivated. But it seems to some degree that it's based on the intensity that a lot of people like freaking intense. They like to feel like they've obliterated themselves, and they're motivated. Hence the CrossFit movement to some degree. What is your take on working out really intense? How many times a week would you take the average person, the weekend warrior, let's say, should they have a really intense workout? Do you have a method at all that you guys that you go by?
I'm going to be honest with you. Every situation that we deal with is completely different. Right. It goes back when we look at the way when we were born. We sat, then we crawled, then we stood up, and then we walked and we ran. There's a level of everything that goes, and I think the same thing goes for fitness. If you're not doing anything, if you're just playing golf on Sundays, and then all of a sudden expect to jump into a 6-7 day a week program. It's just not going to be possible, or if it is possible, it's going to break you down at some point where it's affecting your golf game on weekends, or you're going to be creating possible injuries in the future.
Gotcha.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I hear your point. You're saying it depends for sure. So what about you? How many times a week do you work out really intense?
You know what? I would love to say that I'll be honest with you. I do about 2 times a week of some type of metabolic training, whether it's a density workout or time sets. Then I try to get in like 2 or 3 strength training. I've fallen into the category of, I'm a metabolic guy or I'm a strength guy. And what I feel is at this point of my career, let's just say, I kind of need a little bit of both. You know, I don't need to be benching 400 pounds, and I don't need to be running 12 miles out there. So,
Yeah.
you know, my purpose has changed since when I was playing college soccer. So now I'm looking, you know, just to live healthy, live a great lifestyle, establish a lifestyle that my clients can follow. I'm not perfect. I'm not saying I eat green beans and broccoli for breakfast, lunch, and dinner,
Yeah.
but I understand the benefit of, you know, if I work out and I do what I'm supposed to do Monday through Friday, that I can enjoy that glass of wine, or I can enjoy, you know, sharing a dessert with my fiance on the weekends.
Super cool, man. Now let me ask you. Let me transition into this. Since you're a soccer player in your day, how often do you get out there, or if you do get out there, what's your warm? Or wait a second, did you quit because you were injured? I mean, how did it go? Because that's most competitive athletes end that way.
Yeah, you know what? I played at a high Division I level. I played some semi-pro. I never made that gap into the professional ranks, and I've always made a promise to myself that no matter what sport I did, I would never become one of those like over 30 players. Or not that there's anything wrong with them. It was just a personal thing. I never wanted to. I always had expectations, and when I realized that I couldn't meet my own expectations, then it was time for me to find a different passion. And now I've funneled my competitive nature into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and you know, just more training for myself and for my clients.
Okay, so well, let me just take that note. Who's the best pound for pound MMA fighter out there?
John Bones Jones.
Woo! Thank you, because like most people are like, well, I tell you what, if you had this conversation 2 months ago, they're still like, verdict's not out. But every time, what he did with Machida, which was a scary fight, was pretty you know, I'm always scared. He's long and he can get out of the way, but guys who are fast always kind of scare me. And Machida's he's deceptively fast. He has that my head's way back here, and you're not gonna be able to hit me. And I'm gonna get in real fast and get out. That was scary, but I do. Isn't he fun to watch? Like,
oh, absolutely. I mean, Machida's one of those guys that if you look at in a bar, you're like, all right, that's the guy I'm going to take out.
Yeah.
But, you know, like you
that's
said, he's got these crazy kicks or punches, and all of a sudden you're on your back, passed out.
Yeah, it's funny. I think the guy was talking about this. He was saying that, you know, a lot of people will criticize karate and these very, you know, old-fashioned martial arts. I mean, one of them. And they'll say, you know what, that doesn't really lend well to MMA. You got to be, you know, multifaceted. You got to be on the ground. You got to be able to do these things. Granted, he's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy as well. But the one thing, and I think it was Mr. Rogan, said that it does do well is it teaches you to be first, he said. And that's definitely true, because those competitions, my little nephew was in one of them, it's really about like, I gotta strike, and then I score a point, and then you reset, and bam, you get your point. So it's about being first. That being said, who do you think wins between Bones Jones and Rashad Evans?
I'm going to have to go with my boy Bones Jones. I think Rashad's going to be put up a good fight. I don't know if he can take down John. I don't know. I know they're both like world-class wrestlers in college, but I think Jones is just way too athletic. He's coming from way too many styles, and I don't think on the feet, I don't think Rashad can stay with Jones. So depending on where the fight goes, I think Jones can dominate it either way, and you know, I just hope we get a good fight. That's really it.
Yeah, and you know, I gotta say, anybody who comes from Greg Jackson's camp up there in New Mexico, damn, they're good. I think they have like a 76% winning percentage. In fact, when I was watching Diaz, did you see Diaz Condit?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so I hadn't heard the Condit kid, so I'm watching I hadn't seen them all. I was watching like the replay of him and his old fights. And, you know, I like Diaz and his intensity, and a lot of people hate him. I'm like, I like the intensity. Yeah. Let's see what he's about. Especially he's a hardcore trainer, so I love that part. But I was just looking at the other guy. I'm like, you never can underestimate the other guy, right? And I'm watching him, and then he comes to fight, and they're like, yeah, he's a cardio, you know, crazy cardio guy too. And he comes from the Greg Jackson camp. And then my eyes lit up. I was like, oh, shit, Diaz is going down.
Yeah.
You know, this guy, you know what? When you come from that camp, you come prepared. You stick to your game plan. You don't deviate. His guys are really good about, you know, breaking down the person's weakness and staying out of the way of their strength. And I think that Condit guy in GSP is going to be an interesting fight.
That's gonna be interesting. Well, the question is, does it happen in the fall? Because they're saying GSP is not going to be ready, and now they're looking at Diaz too with Condit.
Why? Diaz is going to go. Condit's going to come in knowing what to do. I don't know. I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, this turns into MMA fight every time I get a guy on here who talks about MMA. But geez, Pizza, while we're here,
P90X, MMA, we can cover it all.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I think it's like if you go back to boxing, I remember it was, I think it was Trinidad De La Hoya, And I wasn't the biggest De La Hoya fan, but I was like, oh, and Trinidad's on fire, and I was thinking, I think De La Hoya's going to win because he's faster. Now, granted, I think De La Hoya did win the fight, but then he ran for the last 2 rounds and like, don't hit me, don't hit me. I already had the fight won, and he did, but the judges didn't like that, and I think they docked him those 2 rounds pretty heavily, and they ended up giving the fight to Trinidad. But anytime you see a guy who's fast, and this is what I said about Bone Jones, potential Anderson Silva, anytime you take a guy who has a specific strength and the other guy can just nullify it or, neutralize it by having similar ability in that one arena or in that one area, then it really makes that other person who's largely dependent upon this one skill set. Talking about Anderson Silva, that would be his length. He's always longer, but if he was going to fight Jones at a catch weight, Jones would have a 10-inch reach advantage on him.
Yeah.
So like he wouldn't, if he stayed on the outside, he would get hit and wouldn't be able to hit. So I always think about guys like that. I think about Condit being a little bit longer than GSP. And I think, ooh, I don't know. He looked fast. He looked like he threw a lot of combinations, like kick again, punch, backhand.
And those
fist.
kicks were coming from everywhere.
Dude, nice. The kid's nice. I like his style. So back to P90. Now, really, the notion of intensity is just seems like it's sweeping everywhere. It's P90, it's CrossFit, it's MMA. People like that. I'll just throw you the curveball question, and that's more about you hear about the ART, the MAT, which are different approaches together. I'm not suggesting they're the same. And then you have NMT. You have all these kind of like therapeutic recovery programs. How important do you think that those are in this industry where we have a lot of extreme, intense types of programs being real prevalent in present day?
I think they're crucial. I mean, everyone wants to just go out there and run their head into the wall a million times and do the cool little, single leg burpees with a Bosu ball, whatever it is. Yeah. But they don't realize that the way you get stronger, faster, leaner, bigger, whatever, is how you recover and recuperate. Right. So processes like those that you just mentioned all are involved in what I like to call the other 23 hours on how you're going to repair, how you're going to regenerate and get ready for the next workout, so that you're 100%. You're not walking into the gym and, oh, I'm hurt, I'm this, and you can't give your all. It kind of goes hand in hand, and, working with athletes, it's a lot easier to get them to jump through the wall than it is to get them to foam roll. Isn't it? It's a lot easier to have them do sprints on the treadmill than use the stretch strap or whatever it is.
Totally true.
It's just a matter of, I almost played against them where I forced them. We've now done everything in like supersets and trisets where I'll do a foam rolling with a power exercise. And although it may not be the prototypical way to do it or buy the book to do it, my job is to get it done. How I get this done, I really don't care. I feel that it's worked for my clients. I feel that it's gotten, they now understand the benefit of it because they can see it in the next workout. And the fact is they need it. They need it probably more than anything that they're doing right now.
And if they're recovering, you might as well foam roll. I mean, I totally agree, man. I used to throw a foam rolling station in one of my circuits I used to run outside the park. So, agreed, man. Hey, Mejias, thanks for rolling with all the different ways we went with the conversation.
No
if
problem.
people want to get more information on, what you guys do at Leverage, what kind of programs you run, where's the best place to contact you?
You can contact us at www.leveragetrainingcenter.com, or you can contact me on my email at rich@leveragetrainingcenter.com.
All right, super cool. Thanks for coming on again, and thank you, everybody, for watching. Show me a good time. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Show me a good. Show me a good. Show me a good time. Oh, yeah.